Good. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, guys? Oh, so you can't hear me, correct? All right. Okay, so let's start. We will go over chapter 7. Chapter 7 is the internet protocol. We'll talk about version 4 only. IPv4, which is the common one we are using these days. So, then we'll go over internet protocol 4. So, how many bits for the IP4? 32 bits, correct? And there is another type version, the IP, which one? IP6, which we're not talking about today. So most of the computers use the IPv4. What's the reason why we have 4 and we have 6? Remember, with 32-bit, how many IP addresses you can power? And is that enough for this technology these days? Because now there's a lot of you have computers, printers, even watch, smart fridge, smart TV, all these need IP addresses. So in the near future, everything is going to go to IPv6, okay, or some of it. How many bits for the IPv6? How many bits we have? 128. So that will give us allowed to have 2 to the power 128, which is a lot. Okay, so what we will cover in this chapter, we will explain general idea behind the IP protocol and the position of IP related to TCP/IP suite. Then we'll talk about how's the format of the IP datagram, how it looks like, and what is the field. Then we'll discuss about fragmentation and reassembly of the datagram. Then we'll discuss some of the options in the IP4 datagram. Okay. Then we'll see how we calculate the checks. The IPv version 4. I will skip this topic, the ATM. I will leave it for you. So we have time. Then finally, we'll see how the IP protocol looks like. How the workflow inside the protocol. All right. So what's the IP protocol? The internet protocol, correct? And the IP is responsible for what? Transmit the data over the network. That's its job. And which layer of the IP protocol exists? It's in layer number 3, right? So, and in the same layer, you will see another type of protocol. See ARP, which we'll discuss maybe next week, and you will have the ICMP protocol and IGM. And in the top of that, you will see different another protocols. We'll see what the relation with the IP, why we need that, and finally the application. We'll discuss it. But the IP protocol, it's live on the network layer and provide service for the underlying layer and take service from the TCP or from transport. So what we say about IB protocol, IPv4, we say, the IB itself is not variable. Why? Because there is no any flow control, there is no any error control, and maybe you will lose packets, maybe you will have a corrupted packet. So the IB protocol is doing something called best effort delivery. So IB protocol will do their best and send the packet, and after that they are not, or IB protocol is not responsible to make sure the data is delivered correctly, or an order, no corrupted, arrived, maybe we got lost. Then you will not be able to know. If it's got lost, you will not know if the packet got lost. That's the problem. That's why if you have any application, you want to make sure that your packet delivered, then you have to combine the IB protocol with another protocol. That's why we say TCP/IP, because TCP, okay, will be make sure the packet delivered and no corruption, no error, delivered completely, and make sure it's in the right sequence. Right? So that's why when the connection oriented, you will have TCP/IP to control that. Like for example, when you have a mail, like the mail delivery these days, if you use just a regular mail, you send a letter. Okay, they are not responsible to 100% to be delivered. So maybe you will send a mail, and maybe it's got lost or corrupted or damaged, and they will not notify you at all. Okay, you just send it, and you're lucky. Mostly it will be delivered. But if it's anything happened, then nobody responsible. That's why if you want to send a very important letter, what you want to do? Use the registered mail. You have to pay extra money. Okay, you will register, they will send a notification, then you can track it. When it's delivered, you will know it's delivered. If something happened, they will notify you, oh, it's something happened. That's the same idea. That's why IB you have to pair it with another protocol like TCP. So now, what is the IB protocol packet or data? What we call it? We call it datagram. And what is this one contains? The datagram contains two parts. The first part is the actual data. And this data coming from where? Coming from transport layer, correct? All right. It's the data. And maybe this data is coming from transport as data and header. Remember, in each layer we add a header. So that's the thing. So you have a data, and then what you will have? IP header. So the IP protocol will add a header. And what is the size of this header? It's between, and we'll see why, between 20 to 60 bytes. Right? So that's the actual size. All right. So this header will have very important data. That's going to tell you how we send the information. For example, can you tell me some of the important data you need to be able to send a packet? If you want to send a letter from my house, from my house to your house, what do you need?
Address.
Yes. So you need the destination address at least. Okay, you need the source address. Why you need the source address?
Because
Yes, that's one of the reasons. Second reason, remember that when you send a message to the destination, you're not sending, it's not only you using the media, correct? So multiple people will use the same media. That's why you want to add your source. And the destination where they receive the packet, they will know it's coming from a specific source. And if they sending that multiple packet, because when you send a message, you're not sending the whole message once. You send it little by little. So at the destination, you have to know it's coming from who to be able to put it together, right? So as we said, it's in the header is between 20 and 60 bytes and has very important data. So how that's gonna look like? As we said, you have header and you have the data. And this data coming from where? From the top layer, from transport layer. Clear? So what is the size? The whole thing, the header includes the data. It's from 20. If there is no data, you just send in a header. It's from 20 until 65. Now, let's let's look at the actual header. So the header is divided to fields, and each field has a meaning and has very important value, and it's gonna tell you. For example, so you will have how many we said between the header between what? 20 to 60. So that's mean how many bytes? The 20 how many bytes? 20 bytes. It's divided if each row it's 4 bytes, correct? It's 32 bits, 4 bytes. How many rows you will have here? 5. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is the minimum, correct? After that, the remaining, it's optional. How many remaining? 40 bytes. And if you divide it to 4, then you will have 10 left, 10 rows, correct? That's optional. So when you build your IB datagram, okay, at least it will have 20 bytes, the header, or more, but minimum it's going to be 20. All right. So let's look at some of these fields. So what is the first one? How many bytes the first one? It's called the virgin IB virgin. Okay. So how many? It's 4 bits. So how many versions we have? We said before 2. IBV4 and 6. Correct. So usually most of the time when you use a packet, this one it will be 0, 1, 0, 0. Correct. That's mean IB4. IB virgin 4. Correct. Because it's 4 bits. Now, what is the second field? The header length, correct? And how many bits? 4 bits. So how many total you will have if you have 4 bits here? 15. Correct? The 4 bits will represent from 0 to 15, correct? If you have 4 ones, it's 15. Correct? So now, question for you. How many rows you will have here? How many bytes you will have? 15. And usually we divide it to 4 bits. Each 4 is give you, like if you remember here, we divide it to 4s. So how many you will have here? If you divide it to 4, how many total you will have of 4s? 32 divided by 4, you will have 8. Correct, you will have 8. Perfect. So now the question here, how many, when you have 4, if you have 15, how many rows you will have? We have 15 rows, correct? So now when we say minimum, what do you think, yeah, the length of the header here? Minimum, the 20. Yes, 20, we divide it to 4, you will have 5. So here the 5, this value has to be minimum 0, 1, 0, 1. So in the exam, if I give you a header, but this value is 0, 1, 0, 0. Is that correct? It's not going to be correct. Because remember, the header minimum, it has to be 20. And we divide it to 5s, correct? So if you have 4, I'm sorry, you divide it to 4s, so you will have 5. So if you have 4 multiply 4 equal 16 total. Do we have a header has only 16 sides? So minimum has to be 20. That means that the lowest number we can put here is 0, 1, 0, 1, which is 5 multiply 4 equal 1. All right. So what is the maximum here? If you want to send the whole thing, it's 16. So it will be 1, 1, 1, 1. All right. 15. We'll call it from 0 to 15. All right. So that's the max if you want to use all the options. If you just want to use the option, so you need 5. So in the exam, we will have a trick. I will give you a few. I will give you the beginning of the header. I want to tell you, is that a correct header or no? So if this value less than 5, you should be told me that's a corrupted packet. You have to discard that because it's less than 5. If it's 5 and up, it's correct, right? So service type, we'll talk about service type currently. Then you will have a total length. The total length, it's include the header and the data. That's the whole thing. And we'll talk about it. There's something called identification, 16-bit, and you will have the flag. We'll talk about it later. Fragmentation, offset, we'll talk about it later. Time to live, it's 8-bit. What we need the time to live? All right. Correct. What does that mean? Remember when you send a packet, it's going through a route, and maybe it has to go from hub to hub to hub to hub. Okay. So now, if when you design your network, you will define the time to live. You don't need your packet to just go in circle. You have to define how long it should jump from hub to hub. If it jump more than the time to live, what you have to do? The network has to discard the packet because you don't want to go to stuck in a loop for the end. So that's why you set this flag. Okay, I need this the time to live, for example, 10. So the packet has to jump from router to router are only 10 times. If jump at 11, then that router will see it. The time to live is set to 10, and now it's 11. Now what we'll do? Discard the packet. So what is the protocol? This one just to define the data coming from which protocol. Remember, the IP provides service to different type of protocol. You have TCP, you have UDP, you have ARP. So that's why you have to define that. Then, very important thing, the header checksum. What does header checksum do? It's only doing a checksum or find if there is error only in the header. So we're not doing any check for the data. So if you have a corrupted inside the data, IB is not responsible to find that. However, IB is responsible to find if something changed when you send the packet, when the destination receive the packet or the datagram, they will check the checksum again. If there is any change, they will know there is something happened during the transmission only for the header. So that's why we say IP address, IP protocol is not reliable because there is no error check. Only do error check on the header itself, not the data. So if something happened to the data, you cannot tell. So that's why you need a higher protocol like TCP, UDP to find if there is any error. Then, what is the source address? The source address. Well, how many bits? 32. What destination? So those 5 lines, okay, is mandatory. You have to have them. The remaining is optional, and we'll see. Let's go to some of the details. All right, so let's explain that again. So virgin, we know it's 4-bit field, as we mentioned. So far, how many protocols we have? We will have 0, 1, 0, 0. That's protocol 4, and you will have 0, 1, 1, protocol 6. But today we'll talk about which protocol? IPv4, right? So that's why that's what we should see when you set the packet, all right? So the header, the H length or the header length, it's 4-bit. So as we said, it's between 20 and 65, the total length, the whole thing. So the header length, as we mentioned before, if it's 25, that's minimum. The value field is 5, so 5 by 4 is a 20. So minimum in the H length, the value has to be between 5 to 20. Right? If it's less than that, you will know that's not a correct header. There's a problem. So if you want to add all the optional, so 15, Remember, we have 15 lines, so 15 multiplied 4 is 60. So that's the total. Perfect. What is the service type? Remember, we have another. So far, we covered this one, service type. Service type, it's going to give you the priority for this packet. So you can assign a priority from 0 to 7. And it's simply you give it your packet priority. So if it's you have a higher priority, then the network it will know, let's send this one faster. Let's give it higher priority. So how that how it look like? So how many bits we said? It's total 8, correct? The field is 8 bits. The last 2 is not used. We don't have to worry about it. Why it's unused? Why they assign 8? Okay. They assign 8 because always they try to give something for the future. Maybe in the future they will start using this one for different purpose. Right? So for now, what is the code points? So the first 3, it's going to give you the priority. So when you have a 3 bits, what's that value you would have? 0 to 7, correct? So the priority from 0 to 7. Perfect. What is the remaining? The remaining 3 value, if the last bit is 0, that means it's coming from internet. If the last 2, it's 1, 1, it's coming from local. So if you send a packet internally, it's coming from your neighbor. So you're not coming from outside. 0, 1, it's temporary or exponential. Okay, experimental. All right. So you don't have to memorize it. You know, it's something you have to just understand. All right. What is the total length? Remember, we have another field here. We mentioned that. How many bits? That's include what? It's include the header plus data. So in the exam, if I will tell you we have a total length of let's say now 16 bits, let's say now total length of 2 to the power 10. There's an example. Let's say now, and the header, we know the header is between 20 to 60, right? And I will define. I will tell you there is no, for example, there is no options. So you will know there is only 20 bytes, right? So what is, I will ask you an example. What is the size of data? Only. It's going to be simply 2 to the power 10 minus 1. That's an addition. Right? So in the field, we have only 2 fields. We don't need the 3 field because if you know 2 field, you will be able to answer how long how big the data you're trying to say. All right, what's the next field? Identification. I will leave that. We'll explain it later. Identification, flags, and fragmentation. That's when we talk about fragmentation. We'll discuss it. Okay. Time to live. Is there any question about time to live? We discussed that. Time to live is just for how long that packet can travel. You know, you have to give an end. You cannot just keep it jumping between hub to hub for unlimited. It has to define that. What is the protocol? How many bits for protocols we said? 8 bits. And what that means for us? It just defines the packet, the data coming from which protocol, which the higher protocol. And we'll see now some of that. What is the checksum? Just we'll do the calculation. Yeah, we'll see if there is any error in the header. We'll see it. Okay, so the protocol or the value of protocol, we said how many bits? 8. Just for example, because remember the IP protocol provides service to who? Not just to one protocol, different protocols. Even if provide service to protocols in the same layer. Like remember, we'll talk about ARB. ARB we'll discuss it next week. So and all these protocols. That's why you have to tell, you know, this data coming from what. So for example, if it's 1, that means it's coming from ICMP. If it's 2, it's coming from IGMP. 6, it's coming from TCP. Okay, 17 coming through the 89 from OSPF. So in the exam, okay, what I will do, I can give you this table, all right? Then I will give you a header, and I will tell you what is the protocol coming from, or this data coming from which protocol. So I'm not gonna let you to memorize that. I'll give you the table, and just have to, you know, find which protocol. All right, so let's do some example, because I know you like examples. So we received the packet, okay, and the header, the beginning of the header is that. That's a beginning. Not the whole, not the 20 bytes or not the 60 bytes. It's only, I'm talking about the first byte. You remember the first byte? Remember what has the first byte? Remember for first 4 bits, what? It's the version. Correct? What is the second byte? The second 4 bits? Header length. So this one will be version. This one will be header length. Okay. Okay. Now let's see. That's it. Then we receive this one. Is this one? It's a good header, or that's a corrupted header, or wrong header? First of all, let's talk about version. Is that the right value? What's the value? 4. So what does mean? That IB4 protocol. That's good, right? There's no issue. Now, length. What's the length? What is the length? 2. And remember, we do 2 multiply 4 equal 8. What's the size of the header? 20. So what we have to do with this? We'll say that corrupted or its own header. All right. That's why we have to discard. So that's one of the example questions. Remember that. Gonna be the same thing, same trick. All right. Let's do another example. An IP packet value. What's the length? 8. 8 multiply 4 equal 32. Right. How many bytes of the option are being carried by this packet? Can you tell me? Don't look to the answer. Remember how much minimum we have to have? 20. But how much now we have? 30. How much option we have? Right? So that's why we're looking for.
Like how much extra we have to use.
Yes. Options. We'll see. We'll talk about option. We'll give you some example of what we use it for. Okay. Let's go another example. Okay. So again, H length. How much? 5. 5 multiply 4 equal 20. Correct. Okay. And what is the total length? 28 hexadecimal. Can you translate that to binary for me? Another binary to decimal. What is this value? Transfer it to decimal. Remember the base 16. That means hexadecimal. And hexadecimal, how many bits will represent each number? 4. The hexadecimal from 0 to 15. So the 8, how we represent 8 in 4 bits? 1 0 0 0, right? Okay, the 2. What is that represent 2 in the hexadecimal? 0 1 0 0, correct? 2, right? So what is this number? It's going to be 32 plus 8 equal 40. So what's the total length? 40, right? All right. So if the whole thing is 40, and we know the header length, it's 20. How much data we are setting? It's 40 minus 20. Remember, the whole data, the whole thing, including header and data, it's 40. And the header is only 20. How much is 20? 20. Perfect. All right, so another example. We received this packet, and this packet, remember, that's coming in hexadecimal. In hexadecimal, how many bits for each number? 4. Perfect. So if you want to divide it to 8, if you want to divide it to bytes to find the field we are looking for, so these two numbers represent 1 byte, correct? Because 4 bits, it's 8. 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. Okay. Then you will have the whole thing, but I'm looking for a specific thing. Now, what's the question? How many hops can this packet travel? So what we are looking for? Time to live, field. How many hops this packet can travel before being dropped? So we're looking for time to live. So if you go back to the header here, let's see where is the time to live. I'm trying to find this one. How many bytes I have to skip? We skip 1, skip 2, skip 3, skip 4, skip 5, skip 6, skip 7, skip 8. Then I'm looking for 9. The 9 is going to tell me how far I can this one. So if I go back, so I will skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I will take this one. How many hops I can jump? 1, 0, 1. So you can jump only 1 time. So I'm looking for this value. So the time to live, it's in hexadecimal. This one, remember, that's hexadecimal. How it translated to byte, to bits, can be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So it's 1. Hexadecimal 1 and hexadecimal with binary is the same. So how many times you can jump? Packet can travel only 1 hop. After that's where we jump. Right? So that's another example of the exam questions. All right, so that's what we talk about the format, how the packet's gonna look like, the length, each field, what that's mean. Now let's talk about fragmentation. So why we need a fragmentation? Can you tell me why we need? So again, what's the name of the data in the IB protocol? Datagram, right? And we know it's going to go through different routes based on the availability, based on a lot of factors. Okay. Now, when you send the packet, you send it, the IB packet or IB datagram, you have to encapsulate it inside header, and then you send it out. Then, in the other end, the receiver, what will the receiver will do? It's called decapsulation. Correct. So first you encapsulate, and the other end do decapsulate, then process it and send it to the higher level. Right. Again, when you send it through different physical network, remember, the network is not only one type of device. So you will have wireless, you will have Ethernet, you will have token ring, and each one of these has a limitation or has a specific function or specific category you have to put. Like, for example, the token bus, you cannot send more than a specific number of bytes. So it's different than the wireless, different than the Ethernet. So in this case, before the IB protocol, before encapsulate the message, what it has to do? I have to understand what is the physical layer I'm trying to use, right? And based on that, I will see, is my data too big? Maybe I have to make it smaller, right? If it's big, then I have to make it smaller. That's why we need fragmentation. We have to fragment the message, the packet, to a smaller packet. Then you said, based on the physical layer, what you have, or data link layer. Now, each protocol has different capacity, and we'll see that. So that's the whole purpose of the fragmentation. Now, how you will know how much I have to fragment? What is the size? So that's coming from a value called maximum transfer unit. That's for physical layer. Physical layer has this factor. Will tell you maximum transfer unit for me as, for example, token bus or as Ethernet 1500 bits. I cannot send more than that. So what that means? IP protocol has to divide the message or the datagram to small fragment and send one by one. Right? When you send it, how you will know I fragment this message? The destination, how they will know this message is not the whole thing, it's a fragment. It's part of the message. You need a flag. Or you will have a fragment sequence. So when you see there's a fragment sequence, you will know that's part of a big message. I have to wait for all of them to put them together. I will see. All right. Each data link layer protocol has its own frame format in most protocols, as we said. What's the factor we need? MTU. MTU is that's one of the exam questions. I will ask you about the MTU. Okay. One of the field define the format of maximum size of data field. That's MTU. Okay. When datagram is encapsulated in a frame, the total size of the datagram must be less than the maximum size. Simple. I'm a data link layer. I can handle only 1500 bits. You can't send me a message as 1600 bits. So it has to be less or equal the maximum size, not more than that. So that's a diagram. Okay, so what you will do based on the physical layer or data link layer, you will know what's the MTU, and you will do fragment. You have to practice that. So then you can add the header, trailer for that. All right. The value of MTU difference from physical network to physical network protocol to another. For example, for the Ethernet, you can only send 1500 bytes. For FDDI LAN, it's only 4352. For BBB point-to-point protocol is 296. Okay. All right. So maximum length of IP packet equal to 65. Based on what? Based on but don't worry about it. When datagram fragment, each fragment has its own header with the most of the field repeated. Right? Why we need that? Why, within fragment, still you will have the source, destination, all this information, because it will send as a separate packet, correct? When you send it, it will send as separate. And the destination, when they receive it, when they open it, they will know, oh, that's part of a bigger message. Then I have to put it together. That's why when you send datagram, when you fragment that, each fragment will have its own header and maybe different a little bit, and we'll see why. The host or router that fragment datagram must change the value of three fields. What's the field? Flags, fragmentation offset, and the total. And we'll see that. All right, so let's talk about, remember the three field, we say we'll discuss it later. So identification. Why we need identification? Yeah, because you have a message. I'm sending a message, okay, to destination B, and at the same time there is another person trying to send a message to destination B, and we send this message as fragment. We divide it to small ones and we send one by one. Now at the destination, how they will know this fragments belong to me, not to belong to my neighbor? That's why you need identification. So what is the identification? It's 16 bits. All right, the field has to be 16. So again, how will be unique? It has to be unique. How it will be unique when you combine the identification with the IP address. All right. So when you combine them, it has to be unique. I cannot say the fragment has the same identification as my neighbor. It has to be different, or everything will be mixed. The flag. The flag is how many bits? Divided to 3 bits. All right. So it's one, it's unused. Okay, for now is reserved and used. Maybe in the future they will use it. The second one is say D. What mean D? D mean do not fragment. So you're telling the network, do not touch this one. Send it as one piece. You cannot fragment. All right. If it's value one, that means you know you cannot fragment. Now, the last one is M. What mean M mean? M means there is when the destination receive it and open it and see M equal one, the destination will know there is more coming behind. So I'm not the last one. If it's zero, that means I'm the last fragment. Don't wait for any more fragments. Okay, when there is one, that means wait. Don't put everything together. Wait for the remaining to come. So, for example, when you have a message, you fragment 10 pieces. So the first piece, first fragment, what is the flag will be? For M, 1. The first line has to be 1 because I have to tell the destination, okay, there is more coming behind. But the destination will not know how many behind. It's gonna tell will tell the destination, I'm not the last. I have value 1, that means there is more coming. Maybe 1, 2,000, I don't know. When the destination receive a fragment with 0 value, the M equals 0, that means I'm the last one. Now put everything. Or what they call it, assembly. You know, the fragments together, all right? What's
Is fragmentation by is message divided sequential?
Of course, it has to be sequential. You know why? Remember, yes, because when you send a packet to a destination, maybe the first fragment will receive this before the second or before third. So it's not going to be in sequence. So you have to put the sequence for them to put them in the right order. Then what is the next fragment? The next field is fragmentation offset. All right, this one it's 13-bit, and it's going to show you the relative position. Like when you do, I will show you an example. It's going to tell you where is the from the fragment, where is this fragment position? I will show you that. All right. So for example, my data it's how many bytes? 4,000. All right. So I want to fragment to 3 fragments. So the byte in the original datagram, if you want to send the whole thing together, you will send it the whole thing, the 4,000 one shot. Okay. Okay. But we know since I'm sending that to different type of physical, maybe I have to divide it. So what is the offset? Again, the offset is the reference point, the first point. So usually you divide it by 8. Because remember, the byte it's 8. So usually if it's divided by 8. So if this one at the beginning is 0, you divide it by 0. So what is your offset? It's 0. Now, if you want to divide that to 3 fragments. So the first, let's say I'm sending only 1,400. Remember, let's say that my MTU it's 1,400. So what is the first fragment from 0? 1399, correct? Because we start from 0. And how you find the offset? Simply, you divide the beginning, the initial one, divided by 8. What's that offset? 0. Now, what is the next fragment? From 14, you just increase by 1, and you add 1,400. So how much? 2,799. What is the offset? Simply you take the first point. You get this, yes, the first. I divide by 8 is 175. Then, what is the remaining? Remember, I have 4,000, and I already did 1,400, and 1,400. How much left? 100. So what is the last one? It's from 2,800 to 399, which is right. Fine. So what is the offset? Just divide the first one by 8. Right. So you cannot send 4,000. That's why when you check the MTU you will know you can set only up to 14. If it's, that's why we cannot set 4,000. I wish we can set, if we have a good physical, technology, you can set 4,000 one shot, that's good. But since we cannot, then we have to divide it to small fragment. Is there any questions? So now, how is that packet is going to look like? Initially, it's going to look like this, correct? So, can you tell me what is the size here? What is my data size? 4,000, correct? Why it's 4020 here? Correct. That's mean I'm not using the option here at all. All right. Question for you. Since I want to send this one the whole message one shot, okay, can you tell me the M flag? How much has to be? 0 what? There is no more fragment behind. So I will make this one 0. That's why you see here. Let's see. All right. So what is the 0, 0, 0? Yeah, but what's the field? The offset. Correct. So that's why the offset is 0, 0, 0. Why is 0, 0, 0? What is the beginning? 0 divided by 8 equal 0. So now that's the original. Now we divide. Remember, we divided to 3 packets. So what is the first one? Can you tell me the first fragment? The first one, how many? I'm sending 14, 20. Why I have one here? Because there is more. Right. Okay. Why is 0, 0, 0? Now, what is the? Can you tell me what is the second fragment?
14.
I'm talking about the size. Here's the total size.
Oh, 14.
So it's going to be the same for here, 20. And what is that?
1.
175 what? Offset. So what's the offset? How we will calculate that? 1400 divided by 8. Okay. Now let's go 1. Why it's 120 and 1220?
Because it's 4,000 data. Already 1400 plus 1400 is done.
1200 left. So that's why the last fragment is 1200 left. Right? And right, that's offset, and that's 1.0. No more fragments. So now let's this packet is going through. A router has the same, using the same technology, like Ethernet. Now let's this one is going to different route, is going through let's say wires, and the size of the MTU is different. So if this one you want to divide it to 2 fragments, for example, and let's say this technology use only up to 800. The MTU equal 800. So that's mean my 1400, I have to divide it to 2 fragments. So first fragment is 820 for the header, and 1 is mean, there's more coming, and that's the reference point. Okay, because remember the first one is 1400 divided by 8, that's equal 175. Perfect. Now the second fragment is the remaining. The remaining of the 1400, 600. That's why the size 620. And what mean 1? That means there is 1 still coming. And 275. I will not 75. That just it's 200. Right. And maybe this one, if you're using a different route, maybe you have to divide it to 2. Maybe you have to divide it to 3 based on which route you're going to. All right. It's clear about fragmentation? I guarantee you will have 2 or 3 questions to find it. All right.
Will mention it?
What?
The maximum. Yeah.
That's why the IP protocol has to know what is belonging. All right. If the let's say my computer, remember, all the devices has to do that. Not only the computer, even the router. So I'm a computer, okay, and I have Ethernet. The IP protocol will know what is my Ethernet, will know what is my MTU. But when I finish, I send it out, then I'm not responsible, correct? The router will receive the packet. Now the router will open it and will try to send it to the next router. So the router has to understand what is my physical. So if it's Ethernet, that means I don't have to do much. I have to change maybe the destination address or next time. But let's say I'm using not Ethernet, I'm using wireless. Okay, now I have to open it, build a new packet, and send it out. This new or this new datagram, maybe it's going to be divided to 2 or 3 based on the technology. Now I will send it out, then it's going to the next hub. Next hub will do the same. I have to check what is my MTU. Then I will decide. Set 1 or divide it to 1. So that's why you have to know exactly what is top view, which protocol you are using. That's why one of the fields is protocol. And that's going to tell you the data coming from who. Based on that, you will know what you have to do. Same thing, the MTU is coming from data link layer. You will know how I have to divide data. All right, let's do a few questions. All right, so let's continue for 15 minutes. Okay, so packet arrived with M. Remember the M has value 0. Is this first fragment, the last fragment, or middle fragment? Do we know if this packet was fragmented? That's last fragment, correct. Now, can you tell if this one fragment at all? You cannot tell. Maybe that's the whole message. So from here, from what we have here, we can tell it's a lost fragment, but we cannot tell if the whole message is part of fragment. So means there's no more fragments coming. The fragment is the last one. However, we cannot say if its original packet was fragmented or not. Because why? Because non-fragmented, using the whole message, non-fragmented message, we consider as the lost. All right. Another question: if the value is equal 1, is first fragment, last fragment, or middle fragment? So we know it's not the last.
Yeah, it's not the last.
But we cannot tell it's middle or first.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. But is this one a fragment? Part
Yep.
of fragment? Yes, has to be. Because if it's not part of a fragment, that means it's 0. Because that means I'm sitting in the hole. That's one of the question exam. But how we can tell if it's first?
Offset.
From the offset. If the offset equals 0, then you can tell it's the first. Can you tell it's middle? Is there a way to tell if it's middle?
They say offset. It's not exactly middle, but the second we can say like.
Yeah, I'm talking about middle.
Yeah.
Middle. If it's not 0, that's means either middle.
Or maybe it can be last too. The offset is sometimes right.
If it's offset 0.
Yeah, it's first, but offset if other than 0, it can be middle or last too, right? It cannot always.
How you know the last is easy because M is going to be 0. Then you will know.
Okay.
Okay, but the middle you cannot define which one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You cannot. I mean 1 we know, but 2, 3, 4, 5. So you cannot tell. Only in one case, if you have the offset and you know how much the MTU. Right? Based on that you can. Yeah, but we're not going to go deep the exam. The exam will tell you first or last. Okay, another example. The M has 1 and fragmentation offset value is 0. We just answered that. That means it's first fragment, correct? Yes. Okay, package has arrived in which the offset value, that's a nice question. Okay, what is the offset value? 100. What is the number of the first byte? Do you know what's the number of the last byte? So when you have the offset is 100. Remember, we divide by 8, but here what we have to do to find exact location, multiply it by 8, right? What's the 800, right? Find the number of the first byte, we multiply offset by 8. So we know it's 800. That means the first byte number is 800. We cannot determine if the number of the last byte unless we know the length of data. Correct? If you tell me what is the whole length, I will tell you if this one, if this is the last one or not. Right? For example, if I tell you that the total size is 800, and we know the first byte is 800, that's me. That's the last. Right? Another question. Okay, the packet, the offset is 100. So what is the total? 800, correct? So at the 800, the total bit size, and the length is 5. What's mean when you have the H length 5? How much? What is the size of the length? What is the size? 20, correct? And the value of the total length is 100. You have 100 bytes, correct? So maybe it's easy to do that. So the first byte number is 8 by 800. So the first one here has the 800, right? And when you have the size 20 here, so that's the size of the header. I'm sorry. Okay. And what is the size, the total size? Sorry. Which means, okay, the total length is 100. I'm sorry, the total is 100, right? And we know there is a 20 for the header from here. So how many the data size? What's the data size? It's only 80, right? 80 bytes. So what is the last bit for the last byte? 8. Because there's no, that's not included. That's only data. The header is going to be here. There's a 20. The total length is 100. 20 plus 80. Right? And we know the beginning of the data it's at the 800. So what is the last one? 800. Okay. So what is the total size? 100 bytes, right? From the question, the total length it's 100. That include header and data. Now, and the question is telling you the header is 5. So what is the total? How much data, actual data left? It's 80. And we know the first byte from the data start at the 800. We can tell that from the offset. The offset is 100. Multiply 8, it's 800. So what is the last? The remaining of the 8. So from 8 to 8, 880, but always because we start from 0, right? Clear? All right. Now let's go over option. I'm not going to focus on much option. We'll go over it. We'll show you some of the format, how it looks like, and what is the benefit of that. Those we'll go over it quickly, and we'll see. All right. So as we said, the header there is minimum 20 bytes. Then the remaining, which is 40, is optional. And why we use the optional one? Why we need it? Again, option means not required, and usually used for what? Testing and debugging the network. That's really the purpose of the options. So can you tell me, based on your experience, can you tell me some of the tools we use to debug the network? If you want to check the destination, it's alive. Which command we use? Ping. Bing. Now, if you go to CMD, let's say I want to check if it's Google Live. How you doing? Google website. Okay, so Bing, Google. Now let's say if we got a reply. See, when you see, so what I'm trying to, in this command, I'm trying to reach out to Google, and if Google, live, reply back to me. And usually with Bing, you do that 4 times, just to make sure it's connected. So that's why you do it 4 times, and it's give you some information, like how many packets you sent, 4. That's why you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, how many they received? They received 4 packets. How many lost? 0, which is good. That means the connection is perfect. Okay, and give you like what is the minimum? Because now we tried 4 times. What is the minimum speed we got there? How? 9 milliseconds. Maximum 9 milliseconds. The average 9 milliseconds. Right. So that's one of the tools. That's actually an IP protocol. IP, protocol. And that's what we use. Can you tell me another one? If you remember. Remember, let me see. No, trace routes, I think. Let me see. IP config is different. IP config, that's internal. It's not going outside. IP config, I don't think so. It's a protocol, IP protocol. Because each like Unix is different. System, like see here, trace RT. All right, that's the trace route. That's another utility. So the trace route it's doing kind of thing. However, now if I'm trying to reach out to Google, do you think I'm going to Google directly? How many hubs I have to go through? You don't know. You don't know how many hub routers between me and Google. I don't know. You cannot tell. That's why the first one, the Bing, is not going to give you details information. It's going to tell you, you reach out to Google, and here's the time, and you have any packet lost. Now, trace route, no, the trace route is going to give you, it's going to check each path. Going to the first hub, what is the specification? How's the speed? Then what is the next hub? That's why if you see here, to reach out to Google, how many hubs I jumped? I went from router to router to router to router, 12. Right? And in each one, it's going to tell you the information. What is minimum, maximum, and average. All right? And what is the hub address? I'm going to this address. I don't know what this one. It's one of the routers. So that's what will give you some information. Now, not all the times, like some of them it's high, maybe high connection. Some of them is low, based on your route. Some of this information you cannot tell what is the router. All right. All right. Sometimes this one is going to something API. All right, that's .NET. That's going to a government government route. So it's going to give you indication if there is a disconnect somewhere. So for example, if you try to reach out to Google and something happened here, right? It will not continue. It's going to stop because you cannot continue. So it's going to give you, it's going to stop here. Then you will tell there is an issue here. That's why we need the IP option, IP protocol options. That's going to help us to test the network. So that's another example.
Can I pick an IP address?
Yes. Yeah. So, for example, here. So, what is this IP address? I want to pick this one. 216.87.14.29. Take it. I got a reply because I know it's gonna. I will get a reply because I just did a trace route and it's live. Now let's say you will try to ping something not exist. I will do ping 192.168.1. Let's say this IP address is live now. So request timeout. Remember, we have time to live. So you cannot just leave the packet to just keep in the loop. You have to try for a certain time, then you stop. So usually try 4 times. If there is no reply, this means this destination IP address is not live. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's live, but maybe there is a restriction. Maybe they're blocking anything. Yeah, some of the network they block that ping command.
Can you pick a class C or D?
Huh?
Can you pick a class C or D IP address?
No.
If I get my friend's IP address, is there a way?
It's local again. You have to find the public IP address. So now within the network, now let's say we have 10 computers here. Usually the local IP address, based on the network, we have a private IP address. Like usually it's 192.168.0. That's up. It's my computer. It's 100. And let's say your computer is 101. If you ping, I should receive a page back. All right. That's private IP address. Now, public IP address, like for the whole UB, we have 1 or 2 based on the organization. Maybe we have 1 or 2 or 3 public IP address. How you will know what is your public IP address? Now, so there is another command. If you go to the internet, that's what you have to do. What is my ID? That is the public IP address for the UP. Now this one I can ping. If, let's say I'm home, I have different IP address. If I ping this one, I should get a reply back. That's the public. That's the interface for the UP. So usually the network, how the network will do it, okay? You have your network. That's the signal, that's UB network. Okay, you will have a private plus 192. That's 0.1 example. Then you will have a public IP address, which is what we have here. 216.84.487.185. So if you have a computer here, a host, trying to access this network, you will not go to the private. You cannot access the private. You have to go to the public. And public IP address will translate it to the private. That's network. Which one? Oh, that's if you know the IP address, you just ping in the same IP address, unlimited. That's why a lot of organizations they disable that. They will not allow when they see a packet, it's coming as a ping because ping when I will look at has a kilo, you can tell that's not a data. That's kind of a ping, so you can tell. Then they can block that. They just when they receive it, just ignore it. Clear? All right, so let's take 5 minutes. Okay. 10 minutes, 10 minutes. start. Okay, so if you remember how many required field we need? 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each one we divide it to bytes. 1, 2, 4. Each one 4 bytes, right? And how many total we have? Then the remaining is the option. How much combination? 40. 40 divided by 4. How so divided by 4? So we have 4. So how many is there? 10. So here we have 10 rows for option. So we say optional 1, or 2, optional 10. Clear? Now, let's talk about the format. So the first line, if you want to use the optional, the first row, it will define what type of option we're trying to use. Okay. And the remaining 9 is it will use it for this function. And we'll see what this function. We'll do some examples. So the first line, the first 8-bit, first byte is type. The second length and this one value. Based on which function or which option you're trying to use, maybe you will use it. Maybe you will not use the value. Maybe you will not use the. Maybe just will use the type. All right. So the type. What do we have the type? Type it's 8 bits and is divided to 3 fields. Okay. The field 1 bit 1. If it's 0, that means I will copy the same format to all of the. So if it's 0, that's mean copy only the first fragment. If it's 1, that's mean I have to copy the same thing for all of them. Right? So guys, since you came late, just a quick refresh. So remember, how many rows we have for required? 5. And each one divided to 4 bytes. So 5 by 4 is 20. Now for the remaining is 40 bytes divided by 4. That means you would have 10 rows. Right? So if you want to use the option, the first row, it would have value or field. It's going to tell me what we will use it for. And the remaining 9, maybe we'll use it, maybe not, based on the option we're trying to use. And we'll see. So what is the first row look like? It's going to be type, length, and value. And maybe we will use the length and value, maybe we will not use it based on the function we're trying to use. So for example, the type, it's 8 bits and it's divided to 3 fields. The first one, if it's the first bit is if it's 0, that's mean you copy only in the first fragment. If it's 1, that's mean you copy the same value to every fragment if you have to divide. All right. Second field is the class. Right. So if it's 0, 0 is the datagram control. 0, 1 is reserved for the user. If it's 1, 1 is reserved for the user. If it's 1, 0 is debugging and management. So most of our options will be here. Right. So what that means, you will see most of the value is going to be 0. Then what we have here, 1, 0. Right. Then what we have else? Here it's number. The number is going to tell you what is the operation it's trying to do. For example, this one is a timestamp. And we'll see what that's means. Okay. So if you want to get if you're trying to do a timestamp, what is the values will be here? 0, 0, 1. So what is the total for the 8 bits total? So it will be 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. So that's what we. Right. So same thing. If I want to do no operation, so it will be 0, 0, 1. So we don't have to go all of them. We'll take some example. I'm not going to ask you an example about it. About the idea. General. We'll ask you a general question. Why we need the options for? What's the purpose of that? Okay, and we know what's the purpose. It's for debugging and testing that. So the options. You will have single byte and you will have multiple byte. What that means? Single byte, that means you need only the first row. You don't need the other rows. You not really no need for the other rows to use. So you will keep it empty. Okay. Multiple byte, it's you will use them. And we'll see that. For example, single byte, that means no operation, function, or end of operation. We'll see what that means. Multiple bytes, it's for example, remember when we did the trace route? Remember what's trace route do? Just find out the routes, list all the IP addresses and all the stuff. So that's why I need the remaining 9 to list the routes there. Okay. Strict source route, the same thing. I need those lines to save data. Use source route, timestamp. Those you cannot use just only the first byte. You have to use more than that. So for example, let's say I'm trying to do no operation option. What is remember the first field, the type? If you want to do no operation here, what is the value? It's going to be 0, 1, 0. Correct? Because the will be correct. Now, 0, 0, 0. Okay, seems not. It has to be 0, 0. Just control. That's part of the control. So it's going to be 0, 0. Perfect. Now, this one, it seems if you want to add the remaining 8 bytes, but I'm not gonna. You can guys skip it. Not much use now. Now, if you want to do the end of operation, same thing. It's going to be 0, 0, 0, then 0, 0, 0. Okay. So record route, that's one we explained before, correct? When we did the trace route. So what you're trying to do, first of all, what is the code? Number 0, then 0, 0, then the remaining. So remember what we have to do? We will try to list the first IP address, second IP address, third until 9. Only up to 9 we can list, correct? Why? Because remember, the option is only 10 rows. And the first one, we'll use it for our field. Like that's the first row. Then you will have how many left? Rows? 9. So in each line, you can list only one IP address. Why it's only one IP address? Because the length for each row is only 32. That's correct. And what is the size of the address, any IP address? It's 32. So that's why you can only list one IP, one IP, one IP, up to 9 IP addresses. You cannot add more. All right, so that's an example. That's when we do route. So, for example, that's initially when you start, when you do route. So what you have to do, you start trying to find, initially there's nothing there. So then after that, you visit this router. So that's the interface. So you list it there. And I'm trying to send something from this computer to this computer. Or I'm doing a trace route from this computer to this computer, right? So I will list the first one. Then I will go the next route, which is this IP address. So I will list it. Yeah. I will visit the third one, which is this one. Right. That's only there's a 3 routers here.
The trace implementation that
No, that's different. Because there you can do up to more than that.
Yeah, automatic. So we get 12.
Yeah, that's different. All right, so that's another one. Now, that's almost the same idea. That's a straight source route option. This one, you define which route you want to go. All right, so that's you telling the computer you have to follow this route. It's already there. Right? So you have to follow this route. You have to go forward. You have to go here. Then you go down. So that's another example of the options. Okay, the loose source route. That's another idea, another option you can use. Loose, that's mean. I'm sorry. Timestamp. Okay, the loose is loose. You can use. It's going to give you a list of routes, and you can use any of these routes. those available to you. You can use it. Again, if you go and read them, it's going to more details. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Okay, times 10. It's the same idea, but the times 10, it's kind of what's it going to do? It's going to add what time you visit this route. Why we need that? Because it's going to tell you how long it takes to go from this route to the other route to troubleshoot, the continuity. If it takes longer, this means there's an issue. You have to check and see why. So, for example, I'm trying to. That's an example. So, for example, I'm trying to visit this line. Okay, and I visit it at this time step. At this time, correct? Then I visit this leg, and how long it takes for me? This time. So how long it took from you to go from here to here? Can you tell me from this number? So I visit this router at this time. Let's say seconds. I don't know how we wrote here. Second, millisecond, I don't know. But let's say 12 seconds. 12. So between here and here, this delay here, I have only 12 seconds. Correct? Now, then if I want to visit to this route, how long? 20. So from here to here, 8. All right? 12 to 20. Correct? So I visit this route at this time. And this route at this time. And this router this time. All right? So now, based on your design, if you are a network engineer, we say, oh, 12 is too much. Okay. There's an issue. Let's work on that. Let's see why there's a slowness there. Okay. And that's how we trace. We try to find exactly what's the problem happens. That's times 10. Now, the other ones that trace route is kind of show you the back. I went from router to router to router. That means the connection it's available. Is that good enough? That's what we need timestamp. That's another example. So let's do some questions. Remember, which of the 6 options must be copied in each fragment? Remember, when we copy this option to all the fragments, when we have that, remember the first bit, if it's 0, that means you don't copy it. If it's 1, copy it to all the fragments. If you go back and remember that. Okay, so remember the first bit. If it's 0, you copy it to the first fragment. If it's 1, you copy it to all of them. So if you go back. All right, so it's 0. What does this mean? Not copy. Right. 0. Not copy. 0. 1. Copy. 1. Copy. 0. Not copy. Okay. Now the question for you. Okay. What's mean 0, 1? The 0, 0. Datagram. Right? Okay, what about 1, 0? Debugging and testing. If it's 1, 0. What about if it's 0, 1, 1, 1? There's 2 options. Is there? Nobody. Okay. Now, what is the remaining here? For example, when it's 0, 0, 1, 0, that's the timestamp. But that's the number, the code. Okay. If it's 0, 0, 0, 1, it's no operation. I can ask you those because that's you have to memorize them. I'm not here to really. I need to try to understand, not to memorize. Because these days, the goal, not initial, because we don't have technology, the internet. When I went to school, we used to write. You have to know these numbers because that's how we On these days now, you can find the answer right away. Have your phone, you can find the answer. We are not here anymore to memorize. We're here to find the answer right away, to understand. When I give you a numbers, you have to tell me it's for what, not to memorize. Clear? So now the second one, okay, which one is control and which one for debugging? You know, from the numbers, as we mentioned, you remember? 0, 0, datagram control. 0, 0, datagram control. 0, 0, datagram control. 0, 0, datagram control. 1, 0 is debugging and management. Perfect. And we know what 0 means. Copy, not copy, not copy, not copy, copy, copy. Okay, so those we did most of the examples. Like, you know, one of the tools we use Bing. So I'm trying to Bing this website or this university. So Bing FHDA, and we did that example. We can do it together. This, I don't know if that's still live. Bing. It's in university somewhere. Time out. Let's mean maybe change the IDS or change the domain. We can. Okay. Oh, because we did 2 things. Correct? So that's one of the tools using Bing to see. So let's see what let's read what one of the utility variable in Unix to check the travel link of the IP packets is Bing. In the next chapter, we will talk about the Bing program in more details. In this example, we want to show how they use program to see if host is available. Mainly Bing is going to tell you if the computer or this host is available. If you got a reply, this means this host is live. If no reply, timeout, that means it's not live. So, and when when you pick a host, that's very important thing. When you pick a host, there is nothing called host. Internet, they know IP address. And we use host. Why we use host name? It's easier for us to remember. For me, I'm not going to remember the IP address of the FHDA.edu. It's 153.18.8. There's no way to remember. There's no way to remember. Can you tell me what is the IP address of Google? Nobody. It's really hard. You know? Nobody can remember that. So maybe people work inside Google, they will know that because they use it. Okay, but use it for programming, for coding, for stuff. They have to know that. But for us, that's why we always use DNS. DNS is going to translate the host to an IP address. For example, if I want to go to Google, what I have to do when I start typing google.com in my browser? Is my browser understand what's the address of the Google? No. So when you type google.com, you send a request to the DNS, domain name system protocol, DNS system. So you send a request to DNS and telling DNS what is the IP address of Google. DNS will send you the information as an IP address. Then the browser will take the IP address and go to Google using the IP address. So that's the same thing, you know. Even when you Bing this site, it has to find the IP address first. Then you still Bing. So in the reality, you're not binging the host, you're binging the IP address. So for example, here what we did. When we did Bridgeport, so what's really you do, usually that's what you do, you ping the IP address. Right? So it's like that's one of the protocols, or one of the utilities. What's the other utility? also being utility with minus capital R. So now we're talking about units. I'm not sure if this one will work with the Windows, but we're talking about units. But that's one of the options. Maybe there's a same command in Windows but different format. But we can do that. But we can try it now with university because we know HDA.edu is not live. So what this one do? It's find the route with the trace route. Maybe that's your next. Not gonna work, but let's just do that. What they did? Bing minus capital R at the end. Let's try it. Let's see if this will work with Windows. Bing. Oh. Yeah, mostly that's not. That's why we use a trace on. So that maybe that's a Unix, right? How you can tell because from the previous slide we say Unix. But the same idea. So the trace route is going to give you each hub you will visit until you get to the destination. Okay, that's the trace route. Okay, here show you the interfaces. Maybe that's the difference. So it's the same function almost. But here show you the interface. Okay, what's the next one? Trace route with minus G. What this one do? That's just going to show you the loose source route. So what this will do? Remember trace route minus G IP address. So I'm trying to force. You read there. The following show how to can send a packet to the HDA server with the requirement that the packet visit this route. So you have to visit this route, this IP address. You cannot use different routes. You have to go through this one. That's why it's called what they call it, loose source route. So you have to go through this IP address. Again, you don't have to memorize that, just I'm telling you just for your own information. So now another one is minus capital G. What's this one do? This packet to force routes define the command line. The following shows how we can send packet to FHDA server and force the packet to visit only the route 153. Okay? So you have to visit only this one. The other one, you're required to visit this one, and maybe you go to another one. This one, it's you can only go through one hub. You cannot go another hub. That's when you're only allowed to jump only one hub. If HDA it's a 3 hub from you, you cannot reach it through this command. Again, why we have a different type? Because there's a different purpose to test. Okay? Different tests can give you different indication. Trace route is not going to be enough. Okay? Maybe it's going to give you, a view what's the issue. But timestamp, it's going to help you with the stamp, how long it takes from hub to hub, why it takes longer, then you have to investigate more. Then let's say you're trying to make sure you visit this router because I want to see what is the speed of this router. Then you have to use Bing minus capital G. So that's in the network engineer. They have to know all this command to troubleshoot and debug the network. Why we have an issue. Okay, checksum. Why we need the checksum? Let's try to cover that quickly. So the checksum, only the purpose of checksum, just to make sure there is no any error in the header. We're not checking the data. Yeah, only the header. And how you do the checksum simply? So your header, you will divide it to n bits, and you stack them in the top of each other, and you add them, or you do two complements. Then after that, the value I will show you now. The value we added to the checksum. After we add it, what we will do, we will send the packet to the destination, and with the destination receive it. What we'll do then for the destination? We'll do the checksum again, and then what they will do, they will subtract the checksum was already sent with the packet, and the checksum they get at the destination. If the value equals 0, what that means? There is no
No
error.
error.
If it's more than 0,
Uh-huh.
I will show an example. That's the whole thing. That's what the checksum do. So how we do that? So at the source, you will do the sum. At the destination, and you will do the sum. Then you will do the checksum. What is the checksum? It's just minus the sum, and you send it. All right, you send the sum and the checksum, and the destination. What you will have? You will calculate it again. If it's 0, that means we are good. If it's more than 0, it's they have an issue. So there's no example. So that's my header. Right? What initially? I'm at the source. What is the initial checksum? 0. The checksum 0. I did not calculate it. Usually it's 0 at the beginning. So how you will calculate that? So you will divide your header up to 16 bits, and you stack them in the top of each other. So for example, you have that's 16 bits, correct? 450, 450. You translate it to bits. 4, 5, and 0. Because remember, the 0 is it's 8 bits. Perfect. Now 28. 16 bits. So you do 28. Do 0, 0. That's 28. Then 1. That's the 1. 0, 0, 0, 0. Then 1. Then you will have 0 and 0. Correct. So 0 and 0. 0, 0, 0, 0. Perfect. Then what you will have? 4 and 17. Because remember, we do 16s together. So you will do 4 and 16. That's 4. And that's, I'm sorry, that's 17. Perfect. 0, you will leave it 0. Checksum initial 0. IP address. The source IP address. You will divide it to 2. 10 and 12, we translate it here. 14 and 5, we translate it to here. Then 12 and 6, we translate it to here. And 7 and 9, we translate it to here. Okay? Perfect. So we stack them in the top of each other. We divide it to 16. Each 16, you put them in one row. Then the second 16, 16. Then what you have to do? You will do the sum. You sum all of them, and that's the result. All right. So if you want to do, you can just try to do the sum together real quick. So 0, 0, 1, 1 and 1, 2, right? And 1, 3, and 1, 4. So 0 and 1. I'm not sure. I have to. All right. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and 1. Because you have to do 1 and 1. 4, 0, 0, 0. One and 1. 4 is 0, 0, 1. Correct? 0, 0, 1. So that's 0. Then you will have here 0 and 1. It's 1. You have 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5. Sorry guys, I totally forgot, but don't worry about it. I will try to remember that maybe this week. I will do that for you. But what you have to do, you do the sum. That's the sum. Then what is that? The checksum? Just the complement. You change the 0 to 1 and 1 to 0. So 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. You do the opposite. Then that's the sum. What you have to do with the sum? The checksum again. You just load it here. Okay? You load it here, then what you will do? Send the message to that destination. Now, what's the destination will do? Okay, what's the destination will do? So the destination will receive this one. Correct? It's the same thing. The only difference, you have to add the checksum here. So remember what we did? 450 is the same. Put it there. 28 put there. 1. The only the checksum, now I have value. And at the destination, at the source, what's the value of the checksum? 0. But now I already have a value. So you add it there. Then what you will do? No, we already said it. That's the destination. Okay, what you will do? You will add, we'll do the sum again. And you do, after that, you do the complement. If the result equals 0, what does it mean?
No error.
No error. If not 0,
There is an error.
so what that means? That means the checksum, it will make the value for you equal ones. Okay, and when you do checksum again, the value will be 0. Perfect. So again, what's the purpose of the checksum? All right. That's I said, I'm not going to cover. Almost done. Just I want to show you how the IP protocol works. All right. Yeah, that's security stuff. You can read it, What is the common issue? And you mentioned some of them, So the packet sniffing. What's the packet sniffing? So when you send your packet through the internet, what hacker they can do? They
Take the
sniff.
packets and
Yeah,
then
they sniff it.
replace.
There is no need to replace. Sniffing, just to go and read it. Okay, take some information and just put it back. All right. You don't want to do much harm. What's the second? Security threat. So the same thing. We grab it, modify it, and put the modification version and send it to you. Okay. What's the other one? Spoofing. Spoofing. Yeah, spoofing is sending a complete message, and they pretend that's coming from a specific person. That's even dangerous. So when you receive it, you think, oh, that's coming from my friend, but it's not coming completely from it. It's at all. They just did that. So, and I just want to go over this diagram very quick. Remember, IP protocol or IP layer will provide service for the top layer and will do service for the bottom layer. So now let's say, I'm trying to send a packet. I receive a packet from the top layer. Can you give me an example? What's the top layer I'm talking about? TCP.
Yeah.
So that's the TCP layer. And which protocol I'm using TCP? Is that transport layer? TCP,
Or
UDP.
UDP or
Yeah.
IC.
Yeah. So I will receive. What you will receive? You will receive the data, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and the destination, because you will receive that. Of course, always you need a destination address. All right. So what you will do? You will receive a packet coming from transport layer. You will add it to the queue. Okay. And then what you will do?
And we
No, still we do not do the header. Okay. That's the header added module. But still, we have to go to the processing module. So it's going to the queue. Now here, actually that's correct. You're adding the header, initial header, before that fragment. Okay. Then you add it to the queue. Now, here when you start processing, you will go to the packet, and you will see, based on the routing table, what is your next hop destination. Because remember that we need that. And in the same time, you have to routing table, and same time you have to go find out. You have to visit the ARB to find what is the physical address. Now, after you build the packet and the interface, what you have to do?
check.
You have to go to the fragmentation one. And how you know if I have to do fragmentation?
Based on the
From the MTU table.
Yeah.
If the MTU table, is telling you can send only 1400, and your message is 1600, what you have to do?
you add that to the
You have to fragment that,
1400.
add it to the queue, then you send the data out. Sorry. So it's easy, really. Coming the data from top layer, add it to the queue, you add your header, then you send it to for the model to find what is the next physical next IP address, what is the physical address. Then after that, you decide if I have to fragment the packet or not. If I have to, you do fragmentation and then you send it. Now I'm the destination. So from where I will receive my data, from physical to data link layer, then from data link layer going to IB layer, correct? IB layer, then what it will do, I'm receiving the packet from the data link layer, right? It's going to the queue, then processing model, then what you have to do? Go here. You will go to the reassembled model. Why we need that? Based on the sequence, based on the flag of the assembly. If you can tell that's first one, second one, third one, you have to, if it's not the last one, you just move them to the table. You keep them in the table, you add them to the table. When you receive the last fragment, which has m equals 0, I will know I'm done. What I will do, put them together, then put them in the queue, send the data, send it to transport layer. Right? That's how it's working. Remember that any layer has to work. It has to work in both source and destination, and has to do the opposite function. So again, when I'm the source, I'm trying to send the data from the top layer through the physical layer, so I have to translate that. Now, and the destination, I'm receiving the data, I have to process it, then I have to move it to the layer. It's 8 o'clock, guys. So, is there any question before we end? So the final exam, just let's discuss that together. See, I know the last week will be 17th, the final exam week, right? April 17th. So I think from April 17th to 21st. That's week. So how many lectures left? What's the date?
27.
Only we have two. Wow. So maybe we'll see. Maybe I will send you the ARB chapter to read it by yourself. It's not hard. It's really easy. Because I want to focus on something. Usually, I think last semester I did this chapter and ARB in the same. All right. So again, the exam will be on the 27th. I'm sorry, on the 17th. Agree?
In person or online?
It's on.